Hello and welcome to the Yorkshire Voice podcast. I'm Holly Hughes and I'm here with...
I'm Sindus Abdi.
I'm Drew Ashmore.
And I'm Rajveer Kaur.
So today marks the hottest day of the year. It's 24 degrees in Leeds where we're recording from today. And I don't know about you guys, but I'm very happy that we're in an air-conditioned room.
Yeah, it's refreshing not to be in that heat.
Yes, well, as nice as a mini heat wave can be, it does have its problems and there are certain precautions that we need to be taking. So Raj, I understand that you've been looking into this, and as our safety woman, could you just take us through the things we need to be looking out for throughout this week?
Less safety, I think, just more mummy, to be honest with you. I was having a look at some of the stats, and June 2023 was the last heat wave we had on record. It was like the 8th hottest year on record. The latest, the data closest to that so when we think about like kind of safety in the heat, we always just think about, just drinking plenty of water, making sure you're taking cool showers. This is advice from the NHS, and making sure you try and stay in the shade at peak times between 10 and 2. Make sure you're drinking, make sure you're eating. Some think avoid hot food. Not necessarily the case.
No, it makes you sweat, doesn't it? Which is actually supposed to be good
Apparently,
for you.
drinking tea and like hot drinks is better than drinking cold drinks.
Yes, I've heard this as well, but I never feel in the mood for a super hot drink on a hot day.
Me neither, but my mum loves to do that.
Yeah, I honestly, it came from family, and I'm like, is this just an old wives' tale? Are you just because you want me to have a cup of tea anyway? But yeah, so there's lots of things we can do, sunscreen, to protect ourselves in the heat and making sure we're well hydrated. But then there's other aspects about thinking about when you're traveling, making sure that you've got your air conditioners working, you've got coolant, making sure that you're not leaving pets in the car. The RSPCA in May 2022 actually recorded over 200 calls in just one May bank holiday weekend.
Oh my gosh.
Of people leaving their pets in the car, which is quite a high. It doesn't feel like a high, doesn't sound like a high number, but actually that's quite a high number of just reports.
Yeah.
So we don't know, you think about deaths and things. And apparently, I don't know if anyone knows whether this is true or not, but is illegally, if you see a pet in a car and it's really hot, and even cranking the window open, isn't it? You can smash the car window in to rescue the pet.
We'll have to fact check that.
You might have to fact check that. It came from an associate and a colleague just as I was walking in, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. Wonder if anyone else knows that.
Would you do that, any of you?
That's what I was thinking. I was like, would I do that?
I don't think I'd want to damage someone else's property. If I'm honest.
But to
save the animal.
It depends on the fact check as to whether it's legal, as to whether I would do that.
Or you got check
whether
first.
It's legal or not. If you saw, if you knew that a pet had been in the car for a period, a period of time, would you do something to try and rescue it?
Yes.
I think I would actually.
Yes. Well, you wouldn't leave a child in a car with a fur coat on, would you?
No, exactly. But it's interesting that actually even with the windows cracked open, and you think that that's enough, it's not. It still creates enough heat, like they're in an oven. Other statistics is last in summer 2024 there was 1,313 heat associated deaths of people in cars or people drowning. There was 223 accidental drownings in water. So, anyone listening, please just, I know it looks tempting, but stay out of the water, keep safe.
Well, absolutely. And this is only going to more likely get worse over the years. So I was a bit of a woman in STEM today, and I started looking at the ozone layer, as you do. And essentially, this is something that shields us from the sun's UV rays, and it's just part of the Earth's stratosphere, and it has a high concentration of ozone in it. And as global warming happens, the thinner the ozone layer is getting, and so it's letting more and more UV rays in. And therefore, we need to be wearing more sun cream. And Sindus, I believe you are our sun cream expert. So could you just take us through, what do we actually need to be doing? Because you hear so many different reports of what the right way to do it is.
I'll put that question back to you guys. Do you guys know how much sunscreen you should be wearing and how often?
I would guess maybe a couple times a day, factor 50, especially in weather like this, and try and stay in the shade between like 11 and 3 when the sun's at its strongest.
That's perfect.
I would say that you need to be dependent on how many UV stars your sun cream has got. Like if it's got 4, I think 5 stars, then it's like you can apply it every 4 or 5 hours and use, depending on your skin type, like factor 50. I tend to make sure I get the really thick lotion that you just lather it on and it doesn't come off for hours.
Yeah, well, I put it on every day, even in the winter, because I believe you're supposed to do that, but I'm not quite sure of the science behind it, but I'm very cautious when it comes to that kind of thing. So
those are all good guesses, and I think you guys have almost hit the nail on the head. So experts say that it's the most important part of your skincare routine, and this is something you do last, typically after moisturizer, and it can actually prevent skin cancer, of course we know that, and fine lines and early signs of aging. And experts say that you should wear it on exposed parts of your body, regardless of your skin tone, and contrary to popular belief, on cold and cloudy days. So you were right there, Holly. And estheticians say that you should use factor 50 sunscreen, which blocks about 98% of UV rays, and you should reapply it every 2 hours, like Drew said, or whenever your body is in contact with water, which is really important. Because I don't know about you guys, but I always assume, oh, it's fine, like my skin has definitely absorbed it by now, but that's not true.
Yeah, well, I think one thing that's so interesting is what I know you said about the anti-aging effects of it, Sindus, but what age do you start wearing it for anti-aging? Are we supposed to wear it all throughout our lives, do you think?
I think we're supposed to wear it all throughout our lives. I know that babies are, obviously very sensitive to sunlight, so they definitely need it. But yeah, until you're super old, I guess.
I suppose the earlier the better, really.
Yeah, I started my children have been using sun cream since they were babies, but admittedly, I was not aware of this sun cream all year round. And growing up as a person of colour in my household, we never had sun cream. My parents were like, you don't need sun cream. Your skin pigment is your sun cream. So if anything happens, it's on them.
Yeah, that's a great segue, Raj. I actually wanted to talk a little bit about that because I know in my family as well, my parents, grandparents, literally everyone older than the age of 35 does not believe in sunscreen. My mom's like, oh, well, the British sun is not strong enough. Like, back home is stronger.
It's like a different heat. Exactly. It's apparently, it's more or less, it's a different sun. Technically, I don't think that's true. Scientifically, I don't think that's correct, but
exactly.
Listen to your parents.
Exactly. But yeah, there are a lot of myths about sunscreen, typically within minority communities. And people assume that because we don't show obvious signs of, getting sunburnt, like we don't immediately turn red, that we don't need it, but that's not actually true. But to some extent, people, who have this pigment, a stronger level of pigment called melanin, have a little bit more protection against the sun. But regardless of that, we should, be fearful of, the threats of skin cancer and, the strong UV rays. So, yeah, with this riveting information, do you guys want to wear sunscreen more often?
I mean, at the minute, I tend to put factor 30 on like twice in a day and call it a day. But I should probably wear some.
Yeah.
To be fair, if I've got time to just fully body moisturize, I'm winning. So I might just, so I might just swap that for sun cream.
Yeah.
I think I actually need to put it everywhere because I only put it on my face and on my neck. And Raj and Sindis, we were out yesterday, weren't we? And probably I spent a few hours in the sun, and today I'm looking a little bit lobstery on my shoulders. Unfortunately,
I did say yesterday. Yes, my shoulders are looking a bit red there.
And I was like, well, no, it's fine. If I've got sun cream on my face, then that's all I need to be doing. But I think I've learnt my lesson now. Yeah. Okay. Well, away from sunscreen now, and towards something that might resonate with a few of you. I know it does with me. So he has knobbly knees and turned out toes, and a poisonous wart at the end of his nose. What does that sound like?
It sounds like the Gruffalo.
You're right. It is the Gruffalo. So Julia Donaldson's famous children's book is making a comeback in September 2026. And the author said that she was inspired to write the next part of the saga after the National Literary Trust included the previous 2 stories in their Early Words Matter scheme. And with schemes like this, they were developed because it was revealed that only 35% of children between 8 and 18 said that they actually enjoy reading in their free time. And in 2024, research from the reading agency showed that only half of UK adults don't read regularly, and a quarter of young people say that they've never been avid readers.
That's shocking.
It's shocking, but I can believe it.
Yeah.
With technology these days, and people listening to podcasts more, and people having like audiobooks, admittedly as well, parents sometimes being busy to read to their children all the time. Back onto the Gruffalo though, I'm a bit worried that mine might be a bit old for me to read it and do the voice.
Oh, Roger,
play the characters.
You're never too old to play the characters
No,
and do
I
the
just read it to
Gruffalo.
myself.
Yeah,
Do the voice,
just for
do the
fun.
characters.
Well,
But-
Julia Donaldson did say that the book is for everyone, and it is about
Yeah.
encouraging adults to
But,
read,
yeah.
even if that means they're reading to their children. They're still reading, which is still
Yeah.
a good thing in her opinion.
And I just think reading, it was such it's a big part of school, but it is, taught in school and what they do. But I can understand those figures.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I guess it is being replaced by things like audiobooks. I mean, sales are going up every year. But what do you guys think? Do you prefer an audiobook, or would you rather have a physical book that you can sit and read?
I mean, I definitely prefer an audiobook. For me, I find reading difficult, being dyslexic. So even with like a paperback, it's still like a battle for me to read like easily. So I tend to just avoid it if I can. I mean, obviously for university, previously I used to read quite a lot, but whenever it's just easier for me for an audiobook. So that or a podcast any day for me.
Yeah,
I definitely agree with Drew. I love audiobooks, especially with that Spotify premium plan when it you get 15 hours free. That's definitely saved me on walks, going about my daily life, doing a daily clean.
Raj?
I'm old school. I like a good book. I like, holding a book in my hand and turning the pages and reading it. And I think because you do spend a lot of time on screens, I like to put that down and then just sit and read and cancel noise out, audiobooks and stuff. I think with audiobooks for me, when you're reading a book, you create the characters and the voices yourself in your head. And that's a big part of it, a part of your imagination of when you're reading the book. And you lose that, I think, sometimes when you've got someone else's voice and someone else's tones and language, reading the book to you. So yeah, I definitely prefer a hard copy.
Yes, but it is nice with an audiobook because you can also immerse yourself wherever you're going. I mean, I know people are getting busier and busier nowadays, and so it's just great, you can be on your commute somewhere and you can be fully immersed in a book and imagining another world whilst doing something else. So with this decline in reading rates, I wonder if they're mainly just talking about the physical book, or if we are just enjoying it in a different way.
I think I think there's a lot more to it as well, because reading is just so important for your brain development and, actually being able to read and being able to kind of think about how your tone and your punctuation and things like that, and your expression as well when you're reading, even if you're just reading in your own head. And I was saying to someone earlier, I feel like we're going back to the hieroglyphics, where even with the reading and the writing, we're using more emojis. And funnily, one of my kids the other day acted an emoji out to me, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
Which one was it?
It was like, "Hi, Mom," and a mom as well. And I was like, "No," and she's like, "Hi, Mom," and she did the whole kiss emoji. So she kind of went.
Raj just did a lovely facial expression, in case you're wondering,
like a little love heart kiss emoji, and I was like, "No."
Well, what was the last book that you read, Sindus? A physical book. What was the last one?
This is great because after having not read a book in about 2 months, I picked up a book yesterday, and it's a poetry book by Sylvia Plath called Ariel.
Lovely.
I thought I'd get into my poetry.
Yeah, Drew.
Well, lowering the tone significantly, the last book I read was a Sidemen book at about the age of 12, when we're talking about reading for pleasure. More recently, I read a lot at uni. One of the ones I actually enjoyed at uni, I did read it for an essay, but I ended up finishing it kind of for a while anyway, was a book about Australia and Japan in the Second World War. And that was really interesting. And I tend to find when I can actually get into reading, I'm a lot more expressive. I'm able to write a lot better and stuff like that. It's just making myself sit down and find the time.
Yeah, it is tricky to find the time, isn't it? And especially, it's not appealing to read something really, really heavy if you've been out and about all day. Like, I don't know if I'd want to come home to a book about Australia and Japan in the Second World War. Wouldn't be my way of unwinding.
Yeah, it's one of those where you've kind of got to give yourself a day for a history book like that. Otherwise, it's just so tedious, and that's probably why I don't read much at the minute.
Yeah. And Marge?
Last book I read was just before uni, actually, before we started this course, and it was American Dirt by Jean Cummins, and I really enjoyed it. It was like got me straight away, got me hooked straight away. I don't want to spoil it for you, but it's quite violent and drugs and things.
So also a lovely, relaxing read.
Yeah. There's a lot of twists and plots in it, so yeah, definitely read it. It's a very good book.
Okay. Well, we also asked around Leeds Trinity University to find out what they've been reading.
The last book that I read was a book by Bob Mortimer, the comedian, and it was called The Hotel Avocado. Really enjoyed it. Humorous, classic Bob Mortimer.
The last book I read was Burr, the guy who shot Hamilton, and I'm still in the process of reading it. It's based loosely on America's history, however, it's still sort of novelized.
I've been reading House of Leaves. I'm nearly, I think, halfway through that, but that's a very horrible book to read. So it's taken me probably like a year to get to this bit.
Well, quite a range there. It's good to see a range though, isn't it? And it's nice to know that there are enough books out there that caters to everybody's taste. So there is a book out there for everyone, and I've always been a firm believer of that. So even if you haven't been reading recently, even if the last book that you read was the Sidemen book, there will be something out there for everybody. So, and finally, we have to talk about Race Across the World, don't we?
We do.
So the BBC show aired on the 23rd of April, and it just documents how 5 teams of people are making their way through a number of countries. And this year, the pairs are racing from the Great Wall of China all the way to the southern tip of India to win £20,000. So the pairs they're usually couples, parents and children, longtime friends reconnecting. And if you're making that kind of journey, the most important thing that you've got to think about first is who you take with you in your team. And again, that is what we've asked Leeds Trinity students. So let's see what they have to say.
I think I'd take my brother, because when you're traveling, I think you've got to be with someone you know really well, and someone that you can get along with, and someone that you find funny. Because, you know, if you're traveling across somewhere, you've got to work as a team. You can't afford any falling out or any arguments. So I'd pick him, because you two I get along the best with.
I'd probably take my partner, just so we could experience it together. And I feel like we're a pretty good team in stressful situations. I think we'd be able to keep it under control with each of our strengths.
My dad, he's quite storied. He's been to a lot of places and he's traveled a lot, and he travels a decent chunk of the time. So I think I take him because he knows a lot about transportation and other countries, and he can be a bit rude, which I think is good for getting you away, which is good.
Okay, so do you take someone knowledgeable, somebody that you like, somebody that you know really well? Raj, who's your first pick?
I would take someone that I just really like, because if I don't like you, we're not going to get on, and it doesn't matter how much knowledge you've got, it's not going to work.
I feel like it could make it worse, seeing how stressful it can be in the show. Yeah, that's always a wise move.
Yeah, it'd have to be like a best friend, like someone I can, really have fun with.
Yeah, and Drew?
I think I'd take my housemate from last year, Alex. He sort of had an amazing ability just to like talk his way into or out of anything.
So he's useful.
Yeah, he's very useful. Like I've seen him talk his way into like loads of situations and out of loads of situations, and I just think that would be incredibly helpful for like getting onto boats that you've missed times for, or like buses or trains or something like that. And I think he'd just be like very good to be with, and he's also a great laugh. So
I like how you've gone mainly strategic there. Raj is sort of about her piece, but it's all about strategy for you, isn't it? And Cinder's gone.
I'm going to be a little bit different here and just say it's all about the fun for me.
Yeah.
I have to take my younger sister. I just know we'd have a good time anywhere, and Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but when I go abroad and I'm not with like someone that I really love and like, I'm just like, oh, I wish they were here to experience it with me. So it's definitely my sister. But I will say we've got a 6-year age gap and I am the eldest. So it might be a bit too much of a responsibility for me.
Carrying
Yeah,
her.
exactly.
Yeah.
We'd have to have a very serious talk before we gel.
Well-
But how about you, Holly?
It's a long journey, isn't it?
Can you take yourself?
Yeah, can I take to me? But actually, I think I would need to take somebody else with me to keep me in check, because I would get a bit too stressed perhaps on routes. Probably one of my sisters. Which one I shan't say, but one of them is more organised than the other, and I would take that one.
I find it really interesting how, like, you know, a lot of the people that gave us some answers for that and like Vox Pops it was all family. I find
Yeah,
that quite
that is
interesting.
sweet.
And how a lot
It's
of people just would take their family and not ditch them.
But I suppose it's what you know, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
if you are doing a route like that, you want somebody who can comfort you if it gets tough.
Exactly.
I guess actually, I think that's quite a nice response to get, actually.
Yeah, I find it really, it was really nice to hear that people, like, I know I would, you know, I'm going for the fun factor and my piece. So yeah, I would take like my best friend, but it's nice that people would want to just experience it with their family and do that, and, you know, that trust.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the most important thing you need in someone is just someone you can have a good time with.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you need someone
Who's
you can
hungry
have
for the
fun.
50 grand.
That as well.
Yes. Absolutely. But of course, it is a very special journey. But if you could just pick one route to make your special journey based on where they've been in the previous series and this one, which one are you picking? Because it is the trip of a lifetime. So what is the trip of a lifetime for you, Drew?
I think I'd go for the one last year where they started in Japan and finished in Indonesia. You get to go to like Korea and then through Vietnam and then to Indonesia and all those countries. I mean, as a history like student previously, just the history in all those countries is so large. Plus, like, they got to see Mount Fuji and stuff like that. And I just would love to see all those landmarks. I'd love to go to Japan and see all the cherry blossom. So I think that would just have to be the route for me.
Yes, it is.
I would have to do the London to Singapore route. I just think it's amazing going through like most of Europe and then a massive chunk of Asia, actually.
You get a lot done with that one. It's very efficient.
It's very efficient. I'd love to see Uzbekistan and the Silk Road. A lot of history there. And Singapore, of course, because I don't know if you guys have watched Crazy Rich Asian. That featured a lot. That country features a lot, and that made me want to go. And then also Thailand, because I love Thai food.
There's priorities. You got that to motivate you to get you to the end. It's not about the 50 grand. It's about the Thai food.
Exactly.
Yes.
Food, history, and media.
I'd love to go to Red Square on that route as well in Moscow, because that was one of the stops, and just seeing all the history there, I think it'd just be incredible.
It would be. Raj?
Now, I have to admit, I've not watched any of them, so I'm not familiar with I actually watched it, but yeah, I'm not really familiar with all the routes. But if I had to choose somewhere that I would really want to go and visit for kind of the culture, the scenery, and the food, I think it'd be like Southeast Asia. You know, that I'd really want to go and see that, because that's one part of the world I've not been to yet. Or maybe just go and sit in Bali for a month.
Yeah. Forget the race.
Forget the race.
Yeah.
Say you got lost.
Sun lounger for a month in a nice hotel.
Exactly.
Wait for the BBC to pick me up.
I'm curious, where would you go, Holly?
I really loved the Canada route. I know it's technically one country, but it was just absolutely beautiful. And I think it's unlike any other place. I'd just love to see those mountains. Avoid the bears, but everything else seems absolutely gorgeous. So yeah, I just have to say that one. Well, I do think that's all we've got time for today, unfortunately. But thank you very much for joining us, and thank you to Drew, Raj and Sundar for all of their expertise.
Thanks,
This
Holly.
podcast will be back tomorrow just after 2 p.m. So make sure you're back listening to that. And the next bulletin will be at 3 o'clock on BCB Radio. And we'll see you very soon.
See you soon.
See you soon.
Thanks, bye.